Hook me if you want. Delilah Thornfield walked into my garage party like she owned the Sun phone, already dialing 911, heels clicking like a metronome, counting down her own undoing. She shouted into the line like a woman announcing the apocalypse. I need police at 1247 Oak Street, and for a beat, every laugh froze, every kid chasing fireflies hung in midair like somebody pressed pause on the whole neighborhood. That's when I realized tonight wasn't just a fundraiser, it was a reckoning. So let me slow down and tell you how a simple idea fixing old cars and raising scholarship money turned into a suburban war story, because the good stuff happens in the middle of chaos and the truth tastes better with a little irony. Act 1. The Spark and the Chokehold. My name is Marcus Juliet, 45, 20 years in the Navy, mechanic by habit and stubbornness, a single dad who believed garages should smell like motor oil and coffee. After the service, I bought a corner house with an oversized garage, legal conversion permits on the wall, fire clearances, the works, and turned it into a restoration shop. Tuesdays became ritual WD-40 and dark roast, the soft thump of classic rock Chief Rodriguez dropping by for coffee, before his shift neighbors bringing donations for military scholarships, kids learning carburetors and respect. Once a month, we'd open the driveway for a charity car show. Nothing slick, just chrome and barbecue smoke and people talking to one another instead of their phones. It funded scholarships for kids of service members, including my daughter Zoe. Quiet Brilliant, the kid who can take apart a radio and somehow put the Beatles back together. Those nights felt holy. And then Delilah, call her Karen if you want the shorthand moved in. 52 McMansion, HOA, a badge of privilege, a woman who treated community standards like scripture when it suited her. She turned petty rules into a performance piece, late-night surveillance from oversized windows, a stack of violation notices with her signature scratch designer heels that sounded like gavel blows. She started with letters, then inspections, then complaints. She weaponized paperwork. 3 months in, she served me with a zoning violation commercial activity. I laughed. Every permit was filed and displayed. She didn't care. She filed 47 complaints across departments, a bureaucratic carpet bombing that woke up every clerk in town. Suddenly, my Tuesday coffee visitor, Chief Rodriguez, the guy who shakes his hands like they've tightened 1,000 lug nuts, was part of the drama. He's a quiet man of habits. Tonight, he belonged to the neighborhood as just another car guy. He didn't know Delilah had been walking past his unmarked Crown Victoria for months, taking pictures of his license plate like evidence of treason. Her complaint campaign had a pattern. When my friend Steve from City Planning pulled me aside, he said, "We've seen this before. Same handwriting, same target list, minorities, vets, people who don't genuflect at HOA meetings. That line, follow the paper trail, is about as lethal as a Navy submarine. You follow it and things surface." I dug in. Act 2, the counterpunch and the twist. I became a paperwork detective. Zoe helped. Turns out modern teenagers are born with forensics in their thumbs. She archived posts, saved IP addresses, time-stamped every fabricated complaint. Mrs. Patterson, our retired school treasurer, sniffed out accounting irregularities. Chief Rodriguez listened. Tommy, the firefighter, Sarah, the nurse neighbors who'd been hounded quietly by Delilah. Suddenly we were a neighborhood with a memory. The more we looked, the more beautiful it got. Delilah's selective enforcement was textbook discrimination rules applied to some, ignored for her allies. Hidden invoices, single-source contracts, inflated payments routed into Thornfield Realty Consulting Services. Mrs. Patterson's accounting fingers tapped numbers like drum rolls, $52,000 missing over 3 years. The same woman calling fire lanes was having HOA money funneled to pay her BMW. And then the twist, her online war. She manufactured a Facebook frenzy called Concerned Citizens of Willowbrook Photos, doctored to make my modest shop look like a siege factory, anonymous testimonials posted under sock puppet accounts. She thought she could drown truth in noise. What she didn't count on was Zoe. While she tweeted hysteria, my daughter built an FBI-grade dossier, screenshots, IP logs, timestamps, digital breadcrumbs that led right back to the same caller, the same device. We planned carefully. This wasn't vigilantism, it was strategy. We invited media, police, city officials, document everything, make transparency the center of gravity. Chief Rodriguez tipped the scales by bringing colleagues who were car lovers first and cops second. He showed up in his restored Cuda, a bone of Americana, blending in until it mattered. We timed every permit, every certificate, every public record, so there'd be no legal wiggle room for Delilah's theatrics. And then she tried to sabotage the event. In the middle of the night, she fumbled with the breaker panel in my garage, amateurish vandalism caught on motion cameras, then filed false police reports about threats I didn't make. She tried to bribe a building inspector, and that guy Bradley Hoffman mumbled confessions that landed in my hands on a recorder. She filed an emergency court injunction. It was dismissed in 10 minutes with the judge warning about abuse of the legal process. So Delilah escalated to her nuclear option. She called in a bomb threat. Federal response arrived like a scene from a movie. Bomb squad's ATF helicopters neighbor evacuation. A $150,000 federal response to nothing but car wax and shop tools. The call traced back to her landline. The irony was so rich it was almost edible. By trying to stop our event, she turned it into a national story. CNN, Fox, local channels. Suddenly, our little charity was the headline. HOA president calls in bomb threat to thwart veterans fundraiser. Act 3. The verdict and the payoff. Arrests happen slower than TV makes them look, but they happen when the evidence is absurdly obvious. Handcuffs clicked in Delilah Thornfield's driveway. Federal charges, false terrorism reports, interference with investigations, abuse of emergency services. State charges for embezzlement followed. Her real estate license evaporated. Her HOA presidency was voided. The community that she tried to terrorize showed up and forced 250 people instead of 50 donations pouring in corporate sponsors, calling veteran groups pledging support. By the end of the night, we'd raised $47,000, almost exactly the amount she'd stolen, and the money didn't go back into some black hole. It seeded permanent HOA reform transparency reports every month, an oversight committee, competitive bidding on contracts, and a culture shift that replaced fear with civic pride. My daughter won her scholarship to Cal Poly's engineering program. Our Willowbrook Veterans Workshop expanded, offering free repairs to military families. Chief Rodriguez kept dropping by for coffee now with other veterans, and Mrs. Patterson ran the HOA with the same precision she once used for school budgets. Here's the moral if you want the part that makes you pause. Power without accountability is not a right, it's a disease. People who hide behind bylaws to harass neighbors will almost always leave a trace. Emails, bank transfers, bragging comments, a signature. Document it, name it, use law and community. Our victory wasn't revenge. It was truth enforced by process, by people who cared enough to collect evidence, to show up, to testify, and to make sure the system worked. And yes, their satisfaction, call it justice, call it karma, watching Delilah walk out of her McMansion into federal custody felt like a cathartic exhale. But the real payoff was what we built after scholarship recipients in college, a community center that smells of coffee and motor oil, real democracy at HOA meetings, and the knowledge that ordinary people, when organized, can turn a bully's campaign into their own undoing. Now here's the thing. I want you to chew on while you're scrolling or sharing. Was all of it justified? Did we push too hard? Is public shaming ever a weapon that becomes a problem itself? Where's the line between community defense and personal vengeance? I'll tell you what I think history favors: the documented, the patient, the lawful, but I'm curious where you stand. Drop your thoughts below. Did we do the right thing? Fight paperwork with paperwork and turn public scrutiny into the final judge? Or did our counterattack stray into the same dark tactics we opposed? Tell me your story. Have you ever stood up to someone in a position of power and lived to tell the tale? Share, argue, and let's talk about where justice ends and vigilantism begins. And hey, if you believe veterans and kids deserve a fighting chance, share this video and add your voice to the conversation.